When was the last time you got your hair cut at a real barber shop? If you have to stop and think about that, you're probably missing out on more than just your monthly trim. Vince Staten is the author of Do Bald Men Get Half-Price Haircuts? In Search of America's Great Barber Shops. Vince, good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thanks.
I went through the book last night. I started thinking about things I haven't thought of in 25 years, talking about going to the barber shop with my dad, all those great sights and smells. Why did you want to write about this?
Well, even though we don't get half-price haircuts, we still got to get haircuts. And I got the idea for this when I had to change barbers. And I went to this new shop that I'd never been in before. The place was packed. A guy named Wibbs in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. And I get in there and I think, I don't have time to wait. So I started to turn around and leave. And everybody in the shop shouted at me, "You're next," because nobody was in there to get a haircut. They were just all in to talk. And that's when I suddenly realized a barber shop's more than just a place for a haircut.
That's right. It's a place where guys traditionally get together to talk, where they meet, where they give their opinions. How do you describe the barber shop's impact on American culture?
Oh, I think, you know, we can go all the way back to ancient Greece, and they're still the same. They were writing back then about barbershops being the gossip center. This is where you go to find out what's going on in town. You go down to the barbershop. People are willing to let their hair down, so to speak. They'll talk about the wreck out on the interstate. They'll talk about the guy at the courthouse who just got indicted. They'll talk about all the baseball trades.
We all remember Floyd the Barber on Andy of Mayberry. I mean, that was the place where the gossip took place in town. And it's also remember that such an important part of this was the fathers taking their sons for their very first haircut at their big boy barber.
Oh, that's right. That's a real rite of passage is when Dad, usually it happened after somebody tells Dad that, "Hey, I saw your daughter downtown the other day," and Dad thinks, "That's my son. He needs to get that first haircut." So he'd take him into his barber and put him up there, and maybe a little screaming, maybe a little cajoling from the barber, and you get that first haircut.
As you traveled around the country over 2 years, because as you point out, you don't need a haircut all that often. 2 years it took you, you visited something like 300 barber shops. What would happen if you drive up to a place, Vince, and it would say the word style in the name of the place somewhere?
I would usually try to drive on, because if the guy thinks he's a stylist, that's not where I want to go. Usually when they're a stylist, they have this thing called appointments. And when you get an appointment...
So in a barber shop, you don't have appointments?
Well, some of them do, but I like to go to the places where you don't have appointments, because that's where everybody's waiting. If you got appointments, people only go when their appointment is. But if you go to the waiting room, you know, you get a room full of guys and the conversation starts flowing.
Okay, a traditional barber shop has to have a few things. Has to have the barber pole outside.
Barber pole outside.
One of the big old chairs.
One of these great old chairs.
Does it have to have that jar with the blue liquid and the combs that stick in there?
Yes, yes.
That's like the disinfectant?
Barbicide. That's what
the barbicide, exactly. Yeah. What about, do they have to offer shaves?
Well, you know, that's a dying art. It's a great thing, and all barbers learn this now. And so almost all of them can do it. Some of them don't want to do it anymore, but it's a great addition if you can get a shave.
So they got the straight razor with the leather strap, and they do that. I remember the smell as you'd walk into a barber shop. It was so distinctive.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got talc in the air. You know, when the barber brushes you off at the end, you've got the hair tonic where he's rubbed it on the skin bracer that he's put on after he shaved your neck.
It's obvious that the heyday of barber shops has passed. What was a turning point for them? I mean, was there some kind of event in history that spelled the doom of the traditional barbershop?
Talk to barbers. Most of them who are a little older can tell you, they'll say February 7th, 1964, that's the day the Beatles landed in America. Suddenly we went from flat tops and GI haircuts to mop tops. You know, when I was a kid, we went to the barbershop every other week.
Yeah.
But when the Beatles arrived, suddenly you're not going to the barbershop until your hair gets long enough, then just for a trim every now and then.
And then from 1960s, we get into the 70s, we get the hippies, we get the long hair. Barbershops must have just been crying.
Flower power. One guy told me, this is in the state of Kentucky, he said from 68 to 75, the number of barbershops in the state dropped from 5,000 to 3,000.
In that short a period of time.
Yeah, nobody was getting a haircut.
It may sound like a strange question. Was the importance of the barbershop in the African-American community the same or equal to what it was in the white communities?
Yeah, it really is. In fact, it may even be more so. I've had African-American guys tell me that that's really the only place where they can go and feel completely and totally comfortable and talk to each other. And you get a little different kind of conversation there. I think it's a little more penetrating. I was in a barbershop in Nashville, Vernon Winfrey's.
Oprah's father.
Oprah's father.
Right.
Go to a white shop in Nashville, and they'll be talking about the latest trade that the Tennessee Titans football team made. You go to Vernon's shop, and they'll be talking about, well, you know, should we be spending all this money on a football team, or shouldn't we be doing something else with this money? A little more penetrating conversation.
Which was the case anyway, because different barbershops, even within the same town, talked to you. Some places you'd have auto racing barbershops, you'd have football barbershops. The conversation changed with the barber.
That's what I love about going to different barbershops.
So as you traveled around, give me the two best that you found.
Well, I love Wibb's in Louisville, Kentucky, because that's the place where they said, you're next, and nobody was there to get a haircut.
How much was a haircut there?
$9.50.
And that's, you know, you think, I remember it was $1.50. $9.50, that's a special do, isn't it?
Well, that's
not a style. I don't mean a style.
That's not a style. And he told me, he said a guy came in the other day and said, you know, I can get a haircut over in Indiana for $5. And Wibb said, well, you didn't tell me you wanted a $5 haircut.
Where's the other one you love?
I love Three Barbers up in Trumbull, Connecticut. This is like a Las Vegas floor show all times. They sing to each other. They joke with each other.
It's called Do Bald Men Get Half-Price Haircuts? In Search of America's Great Barbershops. Vince Staten, fun to talk to you about it.
Thanks.
8:44, and you can read an excerpt from this book, Do Bald Men Get Half-Price Haircuts, on our website at today.msnbc.com. Up next, how to avoid overprotecting your children. But first, this is Today on NBC.
Equitana U.S.